Well, hi everyone. I'm John Retlin with a retro review of TNA Lockdown 2005. This one's been requested by a few people, so I figured why the hell not? Let's take a look back 15 years ago at TNA, now Impact Wrestling, and see how this pay-per-view has aged. Some aspects actually aged pretty well, but I'll be honest, there were some rough parts of this pay-per-view, and that was mainly due to some of the matches not totally working. If you're unfamiliar with the Lockdown concept, it is all matches taking place inside the six sides of steel. Now, some matches had variations. Some were a strap match, some were championship matches, some, just had little twists and everything. Some brawled outside the ring for a while and then got in the ring. And then they tried to find different ways to, use the cage match concept. And actually, honestly, for a number of years, I enjoyed the lockdown concept. And I will argue that Lethal Lockdown was just an extension of War Games, but it was a pretty good extension of it. It was definitely better than the later WCW War Games, as they allowed for blood, violence, and they allowed for some personal issues to actually take shape and grow inside the Lethal Lockdown structure. That being said, this was one of the weaker ones until they would get the concept more right in '06, '07, and various ones like that. So anyway, Mike Tenay and Don West on commentary. Thankfully, not the current commentary team of Don Callis and Josh Matthews. That's part of the reason I can't watch Impact Wrestling currently. And I like quite a bit of the talent, except Michael Elgin and a few others. But you know what? Honestly, I wish the roster of Impact Wrestling nothing but the best. And they got some good young people there. And really, even if I can't watch it, I encourage you guys to watch it, as they have been putting on some pretty good matches lately. So, taking a look at this, though, it was cool how, you had the old school TNA intro, TNA, the new face of professional wrestling. And it was revealed that Kevin Nash has staph infection and could not compete in the main event tonight. So, okay, cool, all right. That he had a lot of injuries. I think he had like a neck injury, he had like some other issues. He kept him out of, I believe, a few pay-per-views, but especially Bound for Glory later that year. But we start off with Lance Hoyt, who is now Lance Archer in AEW, but made his home in Impact Wrestling as Dallas and then Lance Hoyt, and then was in WWE for a bit, and went to New Japan, had a hell of a run, and now is in AEW. But he got his start in Impact Wrestling, at least his national TV exposure, and he teamed with Chris Candido versus Apollo, not Apollo Crews, but Apollo, big old guy, and Sonny Siaki, who actually retired from wrestling because he gave up his kidney to his brother who needed a kidney transplant. And credit to Sonny Siaki for doing that. He gave up his dream to help out a family member. That's a class guy right there. This match is unfortunately remembered for Chris Candido suffering a leg injury, a broken leg, actually. I can't remember if it was the tibia or fibia or what, but it was something that kept him in a wheelchair, and unfortunately he suffered complications where he died shortly, about a few weeks or a month after this pay-per-view. It was really, really sad. But that's what this is remembered for, and then Hoyt took on both guys and eventually fell after a splash from Sonny Siaki for 3. So, okay, the Naturals, who have been coached by Chris Candido, get in Lance Hoyt's face. What the hell are you doing? And then they laid out Lance Hoyt. And this would kind of, continue his face run. And then the Naturals actually win the Tag Team Championship sometime after this on Impact. But that was when Chris Candido, and the last image of Chris Candido was him celebrating with the Naturals, even though he's in a wheelchair, and then he would unfortunately die due to complications from the surgery. It's just really, really fucking sad. Really sad how Chris Candido, one of the brightest young stars, and I'm not going to say the guy would have been a world champion everywhere, but he was somebody who had been through a lot. He had done a lot of good stuff. He had his demons, but he seemed to be cleaning up his life because he got away from Tammy. And everything seemed to be looking up, and it's just tragic how he passed away. But definitely rest in peace, Chris Candido. 15 years after the fact or not, it's still sad to see that this is what ultimately led to his untimely untimely demise. He was taken from us way too soon. So we get Dusty Rhodes, the Director of Authority. He wouldn't be there very long. I think he'd be gone a couple months after this. He was with Trinity and Tracy. Trinity, ECW staple, in the later years, and she would actually make her presence felt a little bit later in a TNA X Division match. So he goes off about how Jeff Jarrett and Sean Waltman are going to start the Lethal Lockdown 6-man match. And there we go. Okay, cool. It's going to be Team Jarrett, led by their captain, and then Sean Waltman, who was subbing in for, well, actually, he was just going to be part of the team, and it was going to be Nash, and then Nash got the staph infection. So I'm going to be quick with this next match, though. Dustin Rhodes versus Robert Roode, or Bobby Roode. Bobby, don't call me Bobbert Roode. With Scott D'Amore, Coach Scott D'Amore, and A1, Alistair Ralph. And A1 wasn't, and I'm not talking about the barbecue sauce, he wasn't around all that long. I think what else did he do after Impact? Because I don't remember him being featured much of anywhere. Did he work independence? Did he retire? Somebody let me know in the comments. Answers in the comments, please. 2 out of 3 falls. It was a quick first fall, like almost like a botched roll-up where Roode got the victory, but it was like Dustin was supposed to kick out and they just rolled with it, and then they had a longer second fall where eventually, even after the Northern Lariat, that, clothesline from behind that Roode would hit, there was, a Bulldog off the ropes for 3. And then the third fall was the Prince of Darkness rules. They put the hoods on. This thankfully was not like Harris and Storm that would have a match at Lethal, or at Lockdown, before Lethal Lockdown with the hoods over their faces. That one wasn't all that good. They would make up for it by having a much better Texas Death Match at Hard Justice the following year. Might retro review that at some point. You're going to see a lot of retro reviews, by the way, and even of some past TNA events and some other stuff, because I need content and you guys love this. So just get ready for a lot of retro content. So, yeah, this wasn't all that good. D'Amore tries interfering, but Roode, sensing somebody's right by him, hits him with a chair that was brought into the ring. And then Roode gets a chair shot to the head, and Dustin covers 1, 2, 3. So, okay, cool, that's over. That wasn't a bad feud, but this is not a good way to end it. And then Shane Douglas interviews Christopher Daniels. Elix Skipper comes there and says, hey, we're going to have a match, and I know you just as well as you know me. Triple X, former Triple X buddies explode. We have Michael Shane, Matt Bentley, whatever you want to call him, with Trinity versus Sanjay Dutt, Chris Sabin, and Shocker. No, actually, the wrestler, the Mexican sensation, who, it was weird because they gave him quite a push, and I think he was gone by later in 05. Did he go back to Mexico? It just seemed like they were giving him a push, and then that was it. He was just gone, after beating a bunch of their guys. It was X Division Escape. It was basically essentially a number 1 contenders match. And the idea was it was pinfall or submission until it got to the final 2. So first 2 falls, first 2 guys be eliminated. Okay, cool. Pinfall, submission, whatever. And then it was Escape the Cage. Hence X Division Escape. Easy for me to say. Hex Division Escape. There we go. You must hex somebody to do that. No, flippy shit with some good wrestling. There was a 4-man submission spot, all 4-man human centipede together. And we get a twisting elbow by Shocker to pin Sanjay Dutt. It was weird, though, because every guy kept trying to break up pinfalls instead of letting one guy get eliminated. And I don't know if that was to extend the match or no, I want to be the one to beat all these guys and show that I'm the king of the cage. And then we get, we get a bit of a weird, we get the pinfall breakup still between Michael Shane and Chris Sabin, which actually, that one only made sense because they've been feuding. And then we get Trinity just, kicking Tracy off the cage, and Tracy hurt her ankle. She came out there in bare feet, which, well, actually, I think she had heels on, so that's probably why she took them off so she climbed the cage, but she twisted her ankle, even though she got in the ring a little bit later. Trinity is okay, I'm going to be remembered for this. Boom, does the moonsault off the cage. One of the best moves of the night, honestly. And, I'm not knocking the talent. Trinity was really goddamn good. And, insane also. And we get Cradle Shock pinning Michael Shane, 1, 2, 3. So Chris Sabin and Shocker are the last 2. And this one would hurt. I need to straighten out my hands better. So they get to where, they're getting on the side of the cage where they're about to fall down. And Chris Sabin hits Shocker, and he's about to fall. And Sabin's shit, I got to drop and hit the floor first. And Shocker hits the floor just a few seconds sooner. So, yep, there's a Shocker win. Sounds really, really bad. And he gets an X Division title shot, I guess. I'm trying to remember some of this stuff because I liked TNA Impact Wrestling in 04 to 09, but some of the stuff's a little muddy to me. I just know he wasn't in the company much longer. We then get recaps of Candido breaking his leg, and I already talked about that before. We get Jeff Hardy versus Raven tables match. Oh dear, the botches, the insane botches, and the fact that Jeff's pinkness was rubbing off all over Raven. His pink body paint, Or maybe not. I don't know. You could not have watched this pay-per-view for a while, and you might be thinking I'm making something dirty. But I run a clean show. I would never say anything dirty. And I think I just heard a collective groan from everybody watching. But anyway, so it wasn't good. Raven did bleed. Jeff was not in a good place at this point, and that'll be talked about when he does his WWE 24 thing. But he had pretty long runs in Impact Wrestling. His first run, less so. He then would have quite a lengthy run from 2010 with a bit of a break in 2011 because of we know why. But he actually had a pretty long run in Impact Wrestling, with even made their champion at one point, well, a couple times. So this was, he does a leg drop, smashing Raven through 4 tables or trying to, and wins. The match wasn't that good. It really wasn't. We then get a TNA tag title match. AMW, no, not ANW, the root beer. It's James Storm and Chris Harris. And they took on Eric Young and Petey Williams. A1 was also there. A1 gained a lot of attention on this pay-per-view. And they really didn't do much with him. And of course, you get the typical Team Canada antics. I like Team Canada. Even looking back on it, was very much old school, where Scott D'Amore just had a lot of heat heaped on him. And then eventually, I think they broke up Team Canada about a year after this. I think it was Slammiversary 06. But they were a pretty good team. I mean, A1 was like a guy that was just brought along where he was just supposed to be the muscle, and they didn't really feature him much, so he couldn't really show what he could do. But Roode, Young, Petey Williams, they were a pretty goddamn good trio. So we get, Storm being bloodied, and it was a strap match, because he thought it was a flag match because the flags were in the corner, but no, the flags are captured quickly, so it's not that. But it might have been more interesting if they did capture the flag. But we get a hockey stick spot, we get powder in the eyes of Williams. He hits a Canadian Destroyer on Eric Young, not noticing, and gets the death sentence for 3. The leg drop off the ropes, by the way. So then we get Skipper versus Daniels X Division Championship. This is where things picked up. The former Triple X members exploding and having, hopefully not, that would be very messy. It's very nice wrestling to start. Skipper does seem to hurt his shoulder, and if he wasn't hurting it, he really, or if he didn't actually hurt it, he really just sold it well. Elix Skipper, by the way, fucking criminally underappreciated. I mean, you take a look at, he started in the dying days of WCW. He was one of the members of Triple X. Him, Daniels, and Low Key. Now, then Senshi, and then Low Key again, and then he was Hitman Agent 49, 69. I don't know, but they were 3 Dynamite performers, and Skipper gets forgotten about as being a pretty damn good guy, good performer in the ring. Now, can I say that his promos are all that good? He also didn't get much of a chance to talk, but with a manager, maybe he could have. It just didn't seem like after 05 or after Triple X broke up that he got much of a chance to shine, because he would then be put in multi-man matches and everything. And it's not that he didn't do some good moves, but he was never given much of a chance to do anything. Then they reunited Triple X in 2007, and he was gone right after Bound for Glory. It just made no sense to me. But the match was good. There was no doubt Daniels was going to win. Eventually he did. There were some good spots. Skipper did even hit a dive off the cage. Not quite as cool as what he did at Turning Point 04, but then again, what would have been when he walked the cage and did the Hurricanrana and didn't die. And it's a good thing he didn't die. As you know, dying is bad for your health, because as Brooke Shields said, when you die, you lose the best part of your life. So eventually, Angels win for 3, and there we go. It's a fine match. Lethal Lockdown, Team DDP, Sean Waltman, and BG James, the former Road Dogg, who had been in there, or been in the company for a few, I think was at the debut show. I know he was one of the original guys hired, because they started 3 Live Crew pretty quickly. Him, Truth, and Conan. And he took on Team Jarrett, which was Jeff Jarrett, the Outlaw, who would later become Kip James, because he was the New Age Outlaw. He was the Outlaw of the New Age. All they had to do was call him the Outlaw of the New Age to just make it even more blatant. Now, it's the same that WCW did when they were talking about, various, Hall and National and stuff, and The Boss instead of The Boss Man, and, the Guardian Angel, they eventually had to call him. Ugh. And also Monty Brown was teaming up with him. Enough of the whole gimmick infringement stuff. Gimmicks have been taken and used by other companies, and WWE sure as fuck has ripped off a lot of people as well. This was set up for a lawsuit thing. It was just a really bad idea. So Waltman and Jarrett start off. They battle on the ramp in the crowd with weapons, trash cans, all this shit. There's some good blood usage. I could have done without the headshots, but you know what? They went full bore on the TV 14, and had a whole lot of good stuff. It wouldn't be the only headshots and only blood that we'd see for the rest of the show. In the cage, we eventually get to where the Outlaw comes out, and then we get DDP coming out, and then we get Monty Brown coming out. And then we get BG James. He's the surprise entrant to take place of Kevin Nash. And there we go. We have a bit of a DX reunion. Will BG James smash the Outlaw? Gross. Will the Outlaw align with BG James? What is going on? Are we going to get some friction here? They would later play into that storyline in 2005, and then eventually Conan would leave 3 Live Crew, and that would pretty much disband the crew, and he would manage LAX, which actually is pretty good use for Conan. Seriously, I think he actually helped add a lot of credibility to Homicide and Hernandez, the original LAX. Though, Santana and Ortiz are a pretty damn good version. So eventually we get a double pound spot, and we get Waltman rolling up Monty Brown sometime after, getting a victory 1-2-3. Okay, cool. This wasn't the best Lethal Lockdown match. In fact, I would say it's probably the weakest, at least of all the pay-per-view editions that they did. But that being said, hey, all the guys worked hard. They were trying something new. A twist on something, old, and trying to make it something new. So what's old is new again. They gave it a shot. Didn't always work, but it wasn't bad. Abyss versus AJ Styles, #1 contenders match. AJ Styles competed at so many Lockdown events, an all-cage event. So I wonder how he feels about his standing within the cage community. The cage community? Yep, had to bust that one out. This is pretty damn good. Abyss and AJ Styles always had good goddamn matches. They spent more time out of the cage than they spent in the cage. Technically, this match only was probably about, I'd say, 9 minutes. Because the running time says 18 to 20, I think, or something like that. And they say that, but no, this match spent at least 7 to 8 minutes outside the ring. In the crowd, AJ Styles even slid under the guardrail at one point. I mean, AJ Styles, you could say what you want about the guy, but my God, his performance in the ring is second to none. It was second to none here. It's second to none now because he's still really goddamn good. And promos have gotten better. Styles gets hit by the cage door and then gets hit again and does this spot where it looks like he folds up like an accordion. Styles is bleeding. We get a chair, we get a chain, AJ getting hung by a chain, calling back to what happened on Impact to lead up to this event. And then we get thumbtacks, so of course, Styles does a Styles Clash variation, slamming Abyss, chest first into the thumbtacks, and then eventually pushes, smashes Abyss, hits Sunset Flip Powerbomb onto the tacks. 1, 2, 3, and AJ Styles is the new #1 contender to take on Jeff Jarrett at Hard Justice 2005, which is probably another retro review I'll be doing, as I do have that DVD, because why the hell not? It's actually kind of fun to look back on these. This pay-per-view finished strongly. There were some issues, but it was a bit crazy. But as far as delivering on gimmicks, maybe it's a little over-gimmicked, but they tried hard. And even the matches that didn't work, I can't fault them for trying an all-cage event and making the best of it. I would say Lockdown 2007 was a little bit better, and I could always retro review a bunch of those, but that's what I'm going to say for right now. It wasn't a bad event, and some parts haven't aged all that well, but they had a hell of a tag team division. They really did. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.